This video is made for adult collectors because the original toy came out in 2003, and that means that people who were born then are adults now, and that's weird. So we all know how I feel about the Universe Hotshot, and if you don't, well, I hated it. So I was excited for the Legacy one as it looked like it was going to be a lot better. And it is. It's a lot better, but it's still not great. I also managed to get the original Hotshot mold for this video because it's just nice to have the three of them together. Now, full disclosure, because I know there's gonna be some people asking, I got this and Scrap Hook at Ages 3 and Up's physical store in Burnaby, BC. There goes the furnace. They have them on shelves, and they had the other deluxes too, but they were all reserved, so I couldn't get Needle Nose and Breakdown, but I did manage to buy these two. Also, their stuff is great. I got to speak with the former Mastermind Creations rep and visit their warehouse before it was open to the public. It was really cool. Not sponsored. I just wanted to say that they're really nice people. Legacy Hotshot looks nice. I love the way they got this to work. The arms feel proper, the torso looks great. My only problem is the look of the legs. They seem too chunky, and the inside of them is just, ugh. The way they store the windshield on the back of the legs is pretty ugly, and I kind of wish there was a way to swing it around so that it covered the inside of the legs and hid all the guts away. I feel like that would have been a much better choice than sticking it on the back, because not only does it look ugly on the side, that makes the knee articulation weird, but I'll touch on that later. I also do wish the upper torso was a tiny bit wider. I feel like it's a little too slim for me, but at that point I'm just reaching. But how it feels isn't the greatest. The plastic feels weird. I always find that with yellow toys, something about it just feels thin and a bit off, especially the pegs holding the feet in place in alt mode. Untabbing them feels like they may break, and the hinges on those feet, when I first got this toy, made the most horrible creaking sound. I thought I snapped the feet off. I genuinely thought I broke it. In contrast, the old Hotshot looks like an idiot, but holds up so well and feels extremely solid. It's a gimmick toy, and yeah, the gimmicks do hinder things like articulation, but that's not really necessary for this toy. The Legacy one has some gimmicks of its own too, and I'm glad they included them. I'm very glad they included them. First, we have the goggles on the head, which fold down, and mine are loose as shit. So it has to sit higher on the head on mine, folded up. Not a big issue. I'll tell you why that happened later on. But I'm glad they included that. I'm also glad they included the massive back cannon. And the wheel clips are sculpted in a specific way to have a bigger hole on one side to replicate the cannon on the original. And the other side is 5mm, so you can plug a blast effect into it. You can manually fold it up and down. It's not spring loaded. And you can mushroom peg it off and combine it with the engine gun to get this, which looks amazing. I genuinely like this. And like I said, he also has the engine gun, which is good. Even though I have my issues, seeing these two in modern toy form in scale that I like is just perfect. I love the way this looks. Granted, both of them have their issues. I cannot wait to see what else they bring out. Seeing this lineup too is pretty neat, even though they're technically different parts of the Unicron trilogy. And now I have someone to give my Universe Minicon to, as I don't display my Universe Hotshot. He still won't stand up to save his life though, 0 out of 10. I will say, the more I mess with this thing on camera, the more I actually start to like it a little bit, but then I remember what these look like, and oh boy. So, Hotshot here is a lot more posable than this, because this was, 2003, full of gimmicks, and so he's got a ball joint at the head, but it's a little limited because of the way it's sculpted, so you really only get a swivel, and then this is extremely loose on my copy, because in the box it was shoved up here, right? And I didn't notice that when I bought it until I got home or back to the hotel. So it's because it was shoved up like that, it's warped a little bit, so it doesn't fit the head properly. It's supposed to stay up here, but I have to push it up a little bit higher, which is unfortunate. I can fix it with a hairdryer, but I'm not going to. Shoulder pads can move out of the way to accommodate the arms to go all the way around, but if you move it back ever so far, you will unclip the backpack because it doesn't really tab in anywhere. It's relying on the shoulder pegs, which get in the thing. This one doesn't like to stay in very often. It's also out of focus. This one doesn't like to stay in very often, and then when you go to move this around, you unpeg the whole assembly, and it's kind of annoying. The arms can go out. You got a bicep rotation, single jointed elbow that bends a little too high for my liking, but that's a very minor nitpick. Nothing at the wrist because of, sculpting. You got a waist joint, which is nice. Hips can go forward and back and in and out. They're on universals. You got thigh rotation, which oddly enough, it's not a double mushroom peg, but there's room for it, and they've been doing that on like almost every single toy coming out, so I find that weird. The knees only bend about that far. Unless you move this out of the way, then you can get a full 90, but then you have all of this. And that's why I feel like this should have made its way around to here, to not only cover this up, but give you that leg articulation without having to make it look extremely hideous. That, and when you bend the knees sometimes, it'll just like unpeg, so you have to peg it back in. It's kind of annoying. And then the feet have a really stiff pivot. When I first got this, they made creaking noises, and that's thin yellow plastic, and I thought it was gonna break. So that was a pain. And then the toes can move down and up ever so slightly, so you can get some forward and back at the feet, which is nice. He's pretty posable for what he is, but there are those limitations that are kind of annoying. Speaking of limitations, this thing, he can T-pose, bend his elbows, bicep swivel, but then break his arms, ball-jointed hips, and knees that bend only that far, and that's it. And then his feet are on springs. Obviously not the most posable, but that's because he does this. You shove a mini-con up his butt, and you can just fire a missile at my face. I don't like the fact that that just fires every time you do that. Kind of wish it was a button-activated thing, but like, it just goes off. But yeah, his posability is, it's okay. Transforming the Legacy one is actually pretty neat. The way the back works, it surprised me greatly at first. I was like, damn, that's pretty cool. And then the legs flip sideways and then Combiner Wars themselves into place. He compacts very well. They very much love that Combiner Wars transformation, don't they? The old one is neat too, in the way the arms are done and everything just sort of wraps around to form the car, but it doesn't do anything else interesting. And the cars look fine. The Legacy one though, bro, the color matching. I know I've said this before, but yellow is a very difficult color to match on different materials, especially clear to solid. And here that really shows. On my camera, it doesn't do a great job, but in person, you can very clearly tell the difference between the two yellows. And the car's proportions feel a tad bit off to me. It feels more squat, especially compared to the old one. No, I'm not transforming the Universe one. Get that out of my life. The old one's car is so much nicer to me, especially in this deco. If they do the Legacy one in this deco, I will buy it hands down. It's so cool. The new one is also Minicon compatible, sort of. You can peg the old one into there and then the arms pop off. The way they did the gap in the spoiler, it just isn't quite big enough to hold the Minicon's arms, which I think is a major oversight. If you're gonna put the compatibility in there, make it big enough. It's weird, but the Universe one fits. Maybe that's the one they were going for when they designed this originally, but I don't know. The helicopter gimmick for the car, the helicopter gimmick that the Minicon does on the car actually doesn't work on the new one because of how small the car is, but that doesn't really bug me at all because I don't do that ever. I do like the shaping of the new one. I just prefer the old one's look overall. I think it looks less squat and I like that. Like, Legacy is an okay figure, but it's not on par with Legacy Armada toys like Starstream. I'd probably put it on par with like Wild Rider, or maybe a little bit of, actually no, this is probably a little bit better than Wild Rider to me. It's nice to see more and more of these Unicron Trilogy toys because that's my jam, but I think it needed a couple more passes before coming out. Just a few little things that keep it from being very good. But should you get this? Yes, but like on sale. I'd say like 15 or 20% off is probably a very good sweet spot. Should you get the original? Well, yes, it's goofy and it's fun and it's weird, but in a good way. $15 to $30 depending on its condition. Then make sure it has its engine, its missile, and its Minicon, because those are the most commonly lost pieces. But that's my look at Legacy Armada Hotshot and the original Hotshot. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.